Evening or good night. I am Taylor Andre. Waking up with Taylor Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. We are in the building virtually with Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, and we are talking about canceling this Darshghan rent. And so the rent moratorium is over. People are looking at foreclosures. They're looking at evictions. What options do you have? And what options do you not have? We are in between a rock and a hard place, and Sonia is going to speak to us today. Senator, I'm sorry. I do have a personal relationship, but let's be professional, right? The senator is going to walk us through the process of how we can protect ourselves as homeowners and as renters. How are you today, my love?
I'm good, Tayla. It's good to be with you. And listen, you call me Sonia, and your viewers and listeners can call me Sonia anytime. And we can still be professional and personal all at once. But thank you for having me. It's good to be with you. And this is just such a dire and intense and personal, topic for people right now. So thank you for making time to talk about it.
Absolutely. So what exactly is a rent moratorium? What does that mean for Massachusetts residents? And what does it mean now that it's over?
Yeah, all great questions. So let me see if I can take them in order. So first of all, I want to be transparent with folks that what we up until very recently in Massachusetts had was not literally a rent moratorium, but it was a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. So people still did owe rent, right, if they're a renter, or owe their mortgage if they have a mortgage and they're a homeowner. But because of the public health pandemic, we put in place, and when I say we, I mean the legislature put in place last spring, a moratorium on anybody being kicked out of their house. Because of course there is such a close connection between people having a safe place to shelter right now, and we're trying to encourage people to stay home, and of course you cannot stay home if you don't have a home. So that's why we put the moratorium in place, to make sure that no one was going to be kicked out of their house during this pandemic, even though they might have lost their job or lost hours, again because of the pandemic, that we weren't going to sort of pour fuel on the fire of COVID-19 by having a giant wave of people losing their housing. So that moratorium lasted through the middle of this month. And on I forget if it was the 17th or the 18th, whatever that Sunday was, of October, the moratorium expired. And the governor had, the way we structure the law is that the governor, as the chief executive in a time of emergency, had the power to extend the moratorium if he chose, which he did extend it once in the summer when it was originally set to expire. He extended it from August to October, but he did not choose to extend the moratorium past the middle of October. So now
do we know why?
You'd have to ask him. There has been some heavy opposition from landlords to the idea of extending that moratorium. So, that might be a contributing factor. It might be the whole factor. I honestly don't know, and I don't want to put any words in the governor's mouth. But one thing that he has said is that he doesn't want to contribute to a sort of mounting debt for renters and homeowners who are putting off, paying rent or paying on their mortgage because they cannot be evicted or foreclosed on because of this moratorium, which I think there's nobody who disagrees with that, right? Which is why myself and many others in the legislature have been strongly advocating for really pumping a large and adequate number of dollars into a program called Raft, residential assistance for families in transition, which has been our best. Go ahead. I see you. Go ahead.
If I could add, so Raft, as a real estate agent, I'm very familiar with Raft. We have tenants that use it all the time because it helps with first, last, and security when you're moving into a unit. And if you're already in a unit, it helps paying with back rent. But if you are in a unit and you're paying $2,000 a month and the max for Raft is $4,000, that's 2 months giving you some relief. But when we've been on pause and not working for the last 8 months, where does the other 6 months come from when all of a sudden it's, the eviction moratorium is over, but we also have 6 months of back rent, 6 months of back mortgage mortgage that needs to be paid if you don't have any type of financial help, but yet you're still not working. So what does that look like for those that are in a dire situation? And yeah, there have been some, but the amount of, or the percentage of people that are not paying their rent because they don't have to versus the percentage of people not paying their rent because they can't.
Right. We know that's reality, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be a bum. I want to cheat my landlord. I want to cheat the system, right? We know people are hardworking folks who are trying to play by the rules and live right. And if you're not paying your rent, it's probably because you're out of work. And so what we need to do is a few things at once. Even before the moratorium had expired, we knew that we needed to pump more money into Raft for exactly the reason that you're describing, Tayla, with the hope that through a combination of sort of helping sources that we would be able to get people to stability, right? So you might be getting some money from your federal unemployment check, some money from your state unemployment check, some money from that first round of federal stimulus, right? Those direct checks that the federal government sent to folks, and then some money from Raft. The problem is,
let's be honest, you mean that $1,200 that paid for a light bill, a gas bill, and maybe a half a refrigerator of food?
That's why we cannot depend on any one of these sources, right? We need to have a diverse stream of assistance that's coming into people. And we have to be realistic, right, about how much we need to put into Raft in order to get the job done. And the governor recently announced when he allowed the moratorium to expire that he was going to put in $100 million new money into Raft, which is a great start, but that's about enough to get us through a month in terms of the overall demand.
Do you have the numbers? What is, if everybody's rent, because Raft, I've never seen Raft do anything for a homeowner. I've only seen Raft do something for a renter. So we're talking about renters only right now.
That's right. Yeah.
So if we're looking at renters across the Commonwealth, what is that number for everyone's rent to have been paid by the state for the last 6 months?
Well, so there are many people in Massachusetts who are still working, right? And who are working from home and they're still drawing a paycheck. So we don't need it to, in fact, the size of the problem does not include every single renter in Massachusetts, but people who are struggling right now. And that's really, really where we want to focus the aid. There is an organization called MAPC. I won't, bother with what the acronym is, but what you need to know is that it is a nonpartisan research and planning organization. And they did the math on this. And what they projected is that $100 million statewide is about what we will need each month, assuming that we stay steady in our levels of unemployment and our levels of demand for rental assistance right now. And so it's great, that the governor said, okay, $100 million new dollars for Raft. That's better than no $1 million new money in Raft, but that's going to get us through about a month. And then what are we going to do in December and January and February, and other months after that until we beat this pandemic? So this is what I and others in the legislature are saying is we need to have the moratorium in place and we need to fund Raft, right? Because we agree with the governor. We don't want people to come through the other end of this crisis with massive debt. But for the immediate term, we don't want them to be homeless, right? And we don't want people who are already at high risk of exposure, maybe because they're frontline workers, to be then, 3 families, on top of each other in one apartment. That's just a recipe for fueling these COVID rates that are already on the upswing. So we need to extend that moratorium, and we need to fund Raft appropriately. And here's the other thing: there is a right now and through the end of December, there is a moratorium from the federal government that is in place on evictions. But it's only on the last step of the eviction process, right? When they actually come to remove you from your house. So what my fear and many other colleagues in government, what we fear is that people are going to be getting those notices to quit right on their front door. And a lot of people don't know that they can fight that in court. And so they're just going to, what we worry about is what we call informal evictions, where people will just see that notice to quit and they'll think that's the end, and then they will leave and they will go into that situation where they're living in their car or they're living with their cousin or they're living with their friend who already has 5 other people in an apartment, and you get that high risk COVID situation. So we really want to get the word out, and this is where you can be so helpful, Tayla. that word out to folks that no one can evict you from your home but a judge, right? Your landlord may not make the final decision on an eviction. And so if you get that notice to quit, you can fight that in court, and to please reach out, whether it's to my office, or if I'm not your state senator, right, your local state senator or rep, or there's an organization called City Life Vida Urbana that has been doing phenomenal work fighting for tenants' rights before this pandemic and during this pandemic, and reach out to any of those folks so we can help connect you with legal resources.
For those who don't know, I'm just pulling up City Life's information so you guys can have access to that. I've already posted mapc.org's website, so you guys can go there to learn a little bit more about that organization. And so I just want you to be properly informed so you can make informed decisions.
Awesome.
But as far as homeowners are concerned, what on the state level is being done as far as homeowners that are receiving all of these letters from the banks telling them, like, you're overdue, we're going to foreclose? There has been a huge uptick. Zillow is not accurate. Anybody who uses Zillow, please don't ever think that what's on Zillow is correct. But there's been a huge increase of pre-foreclosures and foreclosures on Zillow. And a pre-foreclosure on Zillow could mean you missed one monthly payment. It doesn't even mean you missed it. You didn't pay your mortgage on November 1st. You paid it on November 5th. You automatically are in the system, according to Zillow, as a pre-foreclosure. You miss 30 days from you didn't pay on November 1st, you paid on November 30th, you are in foreclosure according to Zillow. And so a lot of homeowners are seeing like a lot of letters and emails and phone calls being sent to them about, like, you don't have to foreclose, just sell your home to me for pennies on the dollar and be free and clear of having a foreclosure on your credit, when that's truly not the situation that's going on right now. So first of all, I love the fact that the kids are in the background. So thank you. Thank you for showing us that you're a real mom.
They're not that close to this room. Like, that's how loud they are. But I know you understand how that is, Tayla. And yeah, it's real. Working from home is real. So your question is such a good one. And I want to acknowledge that I may have misspoken. I need to double check, honestly. The vast majority of people who use Raft are, as you suggested, renters. I want to double check, though, just make sure that I'm 100% right, that Raft is not available to homeowners to assist with their mortgage. So I'm going to check on that and get back to you. But in the meantime, something that was included in the governor's housing stabilization plan, which I think is wholly inadequate, but it is something in the meantime, is more resources for mediation services. Which in the case is something that, if it gets staffed up, right, which is a big question. Like, people are getting already, just for Boston and Brookline, the courts that cover Boston and Brookline, since the expiration of the moratorium, we've seen 100 notices to quit have been filed for Boston and Brookline. And I would guess that there are some parallel numbers for foreclosures, right? That those are starting to work their way through the court system. So that if folks who are listening, if you or someone is in the situation of being in the initial stages of a foreclosure process with a bank, that reaching out for connection to mediation services, so that we can try and avoid the actual foreclosure from happening at the end of that process.
So I know for a fact you probably have seen a couple times in your neighborhood and around the city that I have the sign around for real estate.
Yep.
I would absolutely suggest that the state, the city, go ahead and put some funding into that and use that type of ideology or that platform in order to properly inform people of their rights.
Meaning getting signs up.
Yes.
Yeah.
In different neighborhoods.
You've hit on a really important point. And this is again this is why I take that suggestion to heart, but this is also why I still am pushing hard for that moratorium extension, because just getting the word out to people about what their rights are, right, and what the resources are that are available to them, it's a really inefficient solution compared to just put a moratorium in place, right? It's like right now in a state of emergency, simplicity is worth a lot because people have so much stress and trauma and pressures coming at them, to cut through all of that with, sort of lots of little different options of, well, if you're in this situation, you should do this. If you're in this situation, file this affidavit with the court. Here you can go for mediation. Here you can apply for Raft. And Raft is already on a many months backlog, right? We have people who applied for Raft resources back in the summer who haven't gotten an answer yet. And so if we knew, that all of these systems were really up and running and ready to go and ready to meet the demand that were incoming, I might say, okay, I'll give it a chance. I'll give it a chance to work. Let's see if that works at keeping people in their homes. But we know that those systems are not ready to greet. I mean, look, still apply because we want to get you in the pipeline. I don't want to discourage people from applying to that Raft or to the mediation services. But on the back end, I am going to be kicking and screaming to make sure that they're staffing up appropriately so that they can process those applications and to get that dang moratorium put back in place. Because also once the federal one expires, which is not as strong as the Massachusetts moratorium, it only covers renters. The federal one only covers renters. And you have to file a declaration with your landlord in order to trigger it. Once that expires from the federal government at the end of December, we don't have anything in place in terms of a moratorium. So this is it's an ongoing issue. All this to say, I'm going to keep fighting to get that moratorium back in place, and at the same time to get the resources in place to serve people, whether they're under the cover of a moratorium or not.
So as far as information is concerned, we are just now, and I say we, like, there isn't a huge campaign. Like, there's not a large campaign talking about if you need help. And so when you look at all of the news articles, when you look at the news itself, like, there's not a circulation of if you need help, this is what you need to do. And it's just like, good luck, but no help. And so this is like a question that you probably don't have the answer to, Sonia, but why isn't the federal government, who is the only person who can put on hold the mortgages and the banks, like the state can't tell Santander to stand down, or can we? Oh, we can.
Mm-hmm.
So why aren't we telling Santander to leave homeowners alone? Like, we bailed y'all out. Y'all have that bailout money. Sit down and wait your turn, because right now we have to bail out the American people, because they've been bailed out a couple times and we've been out here struggling this entire time. And had the American people been bailed out the first time, we probably would be in a better position today.
Yeah, no, we absolutely can do that, because the courts that they have to process those evictions and foreclosures through belong to the state. And so the state can say, look, we are just not going to process or approve any foreclosures or evictions. And that is exactly what we did from April to October. So we do have the authority as a state to do that. And this is why, in addition to, Tayla, it's the beginning of your question about getting the word out. This is why your program is so important, and other programs like it, right? That again, I and my colleagues and advocates who are working day and night on this are going on to try and get this word out to people. Even this is, so we're doing advocacy over here to try and change the policy, and we're trying to do communications over here to get the word out of what people can do in the meantime. And then the third thing I would say is to ask for people's help, right? We're inside government trying to flip the table, but we really need the help also from folks, whether you are at risk of being evicted, or you just know people who are, or you just care about your neighbor that you might not know, but that you don't want them to be put out on the street, to call up your legislators and the governor, and continue to urge all of us to do the simplest, most powerful solution here, which is to put that moratorium back in place. It's like a protective umbrella over people while we figure out the other stuff.
So right now, I just want to be clear. So right now, the governor did not extend it again, but he could tell banks to go sit their ass down. But he decided not to tell banks to go sit down.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And how do we contact the governor so we could tell him that homeowners don't want to lose their home, and we cannot control what happens to our renters, but a lot of homeowners aren't sitting on tens of thousands of dollars because they're investing back into the property. They're not investors, but they're homeowners that live in the property that they're renting to others. And so they're struggling just as much as their tenants are. And so how do we as homeowners stress to the governor, or what's the best way to stress to the governor that we do need this extended coverage and you're the one who needs to do it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, ultimately it does have to be both the governor and the legislature, because the legislature has to appropriate the money to fund Raft adequately. So it takes, both. It takes both branches. The governor has.
So is the legislator opposed to it, or are you guys more for it and it's the governor that's opposed?
Well, the legislature is 200 people, so there's a variety of opinions there. So here's the quickest, simplest thing that I can say to your listeners, which is go to wheredoivote.ma.com. I know you know this site, Tayla. Wheredoivote.ma.com, and you can just put in your address where you live or where you're registered to vote, and the site will serve you up all of your elected officials, up and down from congressional level, governor, state legislature, city, and you can click on those names in order to see how to get in touch. So you could email the governor, you could email your state senator, your state rep, and let them know how important this is to you. You can hit people up on social media. I think that the governor's handle is @MassGovernor. Or, again, you see those names when you're on that website, and then search for those folks on whatever social media platform that you prefer. And that, that's a fast and easy way, whether it's email or through social, or call. Like, even though we're working remotely, our phone line in my office is up and running. People are answering it. It's forward. So if one person is answering it, you might not get through on the second line, but we check those messages many times a day. So all of these offices are fully operational. Just because we're in pandemic doesn't mean we're not here to receive your concerns and your hopes and your fears. On that note, I have to jam because I am a little bit late for my next Zoom, but I really, again, Tayla, I'm so appreciative to you for helping us get the word out, because this is a crisis situation that people are living in the middle of right now, and we got to get the word out to folks.
So I definitely would love to have you back, because I want to have a further conversation about education, and I know that is your heartbeat right there. And so when it comes to education in the COVID space, I would love for us to discuss that. And so thank you so much for your time. We definitely love and appreciate you, and hope you have an amazing day, and continue kicking and screaming, because nobody else is listening to us.
There are other people who are listening. It's not just me. I want to give people hope in that regard. We just have to keep building those numbers, right? We have to get to 50% plus one. Please keep waking people up, Tayla. That's what we need. You have a great day as well.
You as well. Thank you so much. Listen, Stephanie Everett, if you can, Stephanie, you have my email, right? If not, TaylaAndre, because I know that you are super knowledgeable as an attorney, but I know you just are resourceful as a human being. So if you can, TaylaAndre@gmail.com. If you are available right now, I want to pull you into the stream really quickly so you can give some more information on top of what Sonia just shared. And I don't think, Stephanie, I have your number anymore. Mine is 617-459-0041. I'm trying to see if I can pull you up. First and foremost, are you available? Can we kidnap you? Can we bring you in? So Stephanie just said Boston Rental Assistance first round of funding deadline is tomorrow. Apply here. And she went ahead and posted it. It's on LinkedIn, connected to this video, but I will go ahead and copy paste it onto Facebook so you guys can have access to that. You know what? I don't have to do all that. Can I just, what's the name of this here? Select all. No, it's not letting me do it. Hold on. Copy paste. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying. It's not going to let me do it here. So, Stephanie, if we can bring you in, I would love to bring you in. If not, there are resources. You just sent an email. Yes. Let's bring Stephanie in this real quick. So for those that are just now tuning in, I am Tayla Andre. Waking Up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day that we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. We just had a dope conversation with Senator Sonia Chang Diaz out of Boston, and she was talking to us about what this means as far as rent moratoriums are concerned and how this plays out. So I just went ahead, Stephanie, and sent you the link. That's an old Facebook post. There is no deadline. We're on Facebook. Oh, that was an old Facebook post. There is no deadline. So go ahead and apply. And I am here. And she went ahead and sent us the link. So I'm going to finesse this really quickly and bring you up. Stephanie, you have the link. If you click on the link, we can go ahead and bring you in so you can share some more information. I'm currently not looking at you guys because I'm trying to share what Stephanie just shared with me, since Once the Name won't let me share it on copy paste it over here. Okay. I just brought a second Tayla Andre in here real quick. Here you guys go. So there's the information. It pulled up on YouTube, pulled up on Facebook, and you guys on LinkedIn already have it because Stephanie posted it. Let me go ahead and remove myself from here. And Stephanie is in the building. Yes, baby. Yes. How you doing, boo? Good rising. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you?
We can hear you. Yes, yes, yes. Life is good right now. So go ahead and whatever you want to share, please share it. And then we're going to go ahead and bring you back another time because I already know how registreful your ass is.
Well, I always jump in when I see my boss.
You're supposed to be the Register of Deeds. That's what you're supposed to be.
Well, I ran for that seat. Hold on, I have an echo. I think it's because I still have.
Hold on, let me just.
Okay. Let me see if this is better. I think I still had. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just muted myself to make sure you didn't have an echo.
Okay. No, I think it was I still had the LinkedIn page up, and I think it was causing a back feed. So the point of me running for the Registry of Deeds 4 years ago was so that I could. It was because of foreclosure. I worked at Sonia Chang Diaz's office, and I was the person responsible for housing. So I did a lot of the foreclosure legislation because we were in the foreclosure crisis at that time. What I will say is that the Registry of Deeds is the one place that could give you an alert really quick to let you know that there's a lot of foreclosure deeds being filed so that you know that we're about to hit a crisis. So, hopefully Steve Murphy heard me saying this and he's going to be on it. It is sad that we are out of time with this moratorium, and hopefully, because the session didn't end, our great electeds in the State House will get this bill passed so that it can extend. I believe Rep. Honan's bill extended the moratorium until March of 2021. Obviously, with things going the way they are right now, we should get them extended past that date. But we'll take another 5 months where we just don't have that. It's just too much on people. I don't know where anyone thinks we're getting money from at this point. If you don't have, I have a spouse who is an essential worker, so he is out of the home. And I have said this a million times. It's the only reason why we are not facing foreclosure is because of him working, because as an attorney, my caseload is down. Then everything I do to support my family and even my law firm is down. I'm having serious conversations with myself if I'm going to keep my law firm going because I'm paying for an office space that I can't truly use. I'm watching one son right now be in Zoom and another one upstairs in his room on Zoom. It's a lot. But as far as resources, do call Mass Housing or Metropolitan Boston Housing and have them help you get some resources for your mortgage and for your rent. The Raft program is good because it requires the landlord to also participate in this. The landlord has to fill out forms too, so that everyone is taken care of. I know that we want to protect our tenants. We also have to be mindful of our small landlords who may just have one home that's just, and they're renting out one floor. Their mortgage was, as you know, Tayla, you're in this world. Their mortgage was approved based on this additional income. So we can leave the commentary about if they can't afford this house, they shouldn't have this house. That doesn't exist. This is how they afford the house, is by this rental income. And Boston, if you're in the city of Boston, they do have a resiliency program that they are trying to put together some funding. And I think you can even, if you have it, you can contribute to this fund. But the fund goes out to the community to help them pay for their rent and their mortgage. But those are just two resources that I know off the top of my head. James Hills had a program where he had Sharice Perry on. She gave a lot more programs. So maybe even directing people to go to his live from last Monday to talk about, I think it was last Monday, to hear Sharice give more. She works in works in the courts, and she deals with a lot of self-litigation. So she knows a lot of these programs that are out there, and just help people out while we can, and figure out what we need to do next. This is going to be a lot. I didn't catch all of what my former boss lady was talking about, but I'm pretty sure she gave you a whole bunch of information. I can't hear you.
I forgot I muted myself, so
Okay.
there's no echo. Just like Stephanie Everett, Sharice is a beast when it comes to making sure our people are good. And so I definitely will direct you guys to the James Hill interview, Java with Jimmy with Sharice Perry. And the information that she gave was spot on and on point. And it was just like, we need it. We need this information. We are struggling, and I have to go back, Stephanie, because I don't care if it was 4 years ago or 14 years ago. What you shared about deeds and the importance of deeds and why it's important, and then currently reading The Color of Law and seeing how it relates to who and how we are as Black people in ghettos, urban areas. It's taking that information from 4 years ago and seeing what I saw within real estate in the last 5 years, on top of reading The Color of Law. You should have been Registry of Deeds. Like that should have been you, and I still want it to be you. So can you please? We need you.
I have run four times. I feel like I am, you know how there's some people who get married multiple times, and at a certain point you just have to realize like marriage isn't for you. That's how I feel about being an elected official. It's just not for me. I still have, one of the things, like I say, from this last election, because we were all in COVID, just having a lot of people on social media who still follow, and I post stuff and there's so many people who respond. I'm like, I don't know half these people, but I feel like I have an obligation to still give out information, to still be involved. I don't have to be an elected official with a title in order to be involved. And I think that's the thing that everyone in the community should feel like. You don't need a title of any elected official to give to your community, to be involved. Your title means nothing. It's the commitment to your community. So while it's easy for me to go away and put my head underneath the covers and be like, oh my God, they don't want me, it doesn't work for me, because I know that in every election that I ever was part of, whether as a candidate or as a volunteer, there's always that one person that makes everything you do worth it. From having friends who went to jail for a whole host of things, go out and knock doors for me. That's huge. Who've never voted, but because they know me, put my name, like I'm going to go vote just because I know you're on there. To including yourself, people who don't understand the registry. There was a big deal about like, why is this even an elected position? It's an elected position because it could be doing more. Just because the people who were in it haven't done more doesn't mean that the position does not allow for you to do more. As the Register of Deeds, you should be involved in any policy that would impact how people file their deeds, how property is transferred. There's a lot of elder abuse in property, and that's the thing that we don't talk about. So that office is really important to how we, especially as minorities, our wealth is very new. It's very new compared to everything else in this country. And because of that, we don't have a historical knowledge of how to protect self. How do we keep this wealth going from generation to generation? But there is a way that we can do it. And hopefully, again, they're doing a little bit more of the registry. You have you who does your stuff with the real estate. I do my stuff.
No, they're not, Stephanie. We're not going to be hopeful. We're going to be honest.
Yeah.
And the honest truth is how many black people, because we're not a minority, we're the majority of the entire world, how many black people could have saved their homes if we had a Register of Deeds that actually gave it out?
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that in order for you to be foreclosed on, I think this is where things get lost. We hear about going to housing court. Housing court stops for tenants and landlords. That's their stopping point. When a mortgage company forecloses on a home, they then have to file a foreclosure deed with the Register of Deeds. So their endpoint is not the courts. And so we have to do a better job at really giving out information about our elected offices, but we also have to do a better job at talking to each other. I find in our communities, we don't talk a lot about how do we reserve our wealth, or we want to shy away that we're struggling. I'm going to talk to you after this program's over. I have to go on and go court in a few minutes. But one of the things that I really think that we need to do is have a community fund. That fund doesn't come with all these red lines. It's something that we all can just throw in. If you have an extra $20, you put it in. If someone needs to pay their rent, they just fill out the form online or call up, and money comes to them.
Group economics? Is this a Kwanzaa principle? Are you talking about?
It's really just to make sure that we take care of ourselves. If we didn't learn anything in COVID, government didn't show up. Your community showed up. Your neighbors showed up. And so we're waiting right now. We're worried, even in your program, talking about how we're going to pay rent, how we're going to pay mortgage. None of us should be thinking about that. None of us. If we had a community fund, that fund would be making sure that we are all set. Our community are the ones that, even when we're thinking about how our kids are being educated, my law degree does not tell me that I should be an educator, especially a special ed educator. I'm going to be very honest about that. My patience level just doesn't exist. And our kids are dealing with mental health, right? There's a lot of mental health crises going on in all of our homes right now. But I've opened up my home. I tell people, if you have to go to work, bring your kid with lunch and a laptop, drop them off. I don't want you not to have to go to work. If, the summertime, the same thing. I have a trampoline, basketball, hoop in the back. If people need to drop their kids off, there's no cost, right? I don't need you to pay. Just bring your kid with their lunch, and then everything else will be taken care of. And I think that
sound like my house, Stephanie.
Yeah, but this, what I always tell people, my mother never owned a house. My dad never owned a house. My grandparents bought a house, still own it on Wellington Hill. My mother and my aunt live in that house right now. But I've never never had ownership growing up outside of my grandparents. And what I developed was a theory. Like, we had a lot of changes. If you ever read my story, this changes with my mom. If I have a roof, we all have a roof. It's just what it is. I can't be comfortable in my home and think that everything is great and then walk outside to disaster. That's not okay. We have to be able to look inside and figure out, I didn't get here by myself. This community got me to this house. And if my community got me here, if I got a roof, they got a roof. And we just have to get back to community. But we have to do this community fund. We definitely have to do a community fund. And I need to stop saying it. I need to really sit down with people like yourself and figure out, how do we start it? How do we manage it? And how do we start getting these resources out, right? There are people who need food. There are people who need resources to helping with their kids. These Chromebooks are not the best. And then you also have parents who don't even understand how to use these Chromebooks, how to help their kids, right? So we have to do more. We can't rely on government to do stuff for us. We have to go back to the days where it's us, and we're going to just figure out us.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. You said the magic word. And I was actually being facetious because I talk about Kwanzaa principles all the time and how we don't need to think about them for the 7 days around Christmas, but literally the 7 days of the week, and implement them into our life every day, every day. And so group economics and looking out for each other and having a community fund is what should already be in place. And if you know anything about me, like the NAACP should have done that years ago. The Urban League should have done that years ago. Like this isn't a new conversation for us, but we act like it is. And the truth is, I'd love to have a conversation with you because I truly believe that we need to lay the pavement. Like, we've been on this beaten dirt road for so long. Like, when are we going to go ahead and put the pavement down with the lines and everything and say, this is the roadmap. This is how we help each other. This is what we need to do. And like the Jewish community, like the Asian community, crying out loud,
we gotta put titles aside, put egos aside, and get the work done. Right? Like, it's not about a title. No one cares that I'm an attorney if they just need money to eat. No one cares about, my title or anyone else's title, when all I want to know is, can you help me so I don't have to worry about where my kids are going to lay their head? In the midst of all of the craziness that's going on in this world, all the craziness, I need to be concerned with the fact that my job is closed or may have closed permanently or downsized and I have no income. And now I need to figure out where my kids are going to sleep at night. That's a big deal. That says a lot about us, that we are trying to figure that out instead of having a solution for that. And you're right, we should have already had a fund, but we don't. So let's create one, right? Like, we can go through all the things that we don't have, but there's a whole bunch of things that we can have and that we can do if we just put all that aside and enter the room with the goal of making our community stronger, right? And so I have a lot of stuff, but I do have to jump off and go on
go to
my
court, baby. We thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You all have a good one. Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye-bye.
I am Tayla Andre. Waking Up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Like, this is every day, baby. This isn't once in a while. So if you just now tuning in, there's about 700 other shows for you to watch. You got about 7,000 hours of great information, motivational Monday through Freaky Friday, everything Tayla Andre, Tayla Andre. We're going to go ahead and end this live, and we're going to go ahead and pick back up with Andrea Campbell. And so today is just all about politics, and we're going to continue talking about politics until we see the damn race riots on November 3rd. I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing. That shit's not funny for real. So we will see you. Go ahead and log off, and we're going to bring it back up, and we'll be live with Andrea Campbell. You are listening to Spark FM online. You can listen on the actual.com, sparkfm.com. You can watch again on YouTube. You can watch the replay on Facebook, and you can go ahead and purchase the Tayla Andre book at taylaandre.com, TaylaAndre. My real number is 617-459-0041. That's no joke. Finally, home is the step-by-step guide for people preparing for first-time home ownership. That's whether you are fixing your credit right now and need a little help fixing your credit. There's over 17 pages of just how to fix your credit yourself, and then savings and everything else you need to know in order to purchase a home and be knowledgeable and make informed decisions. That's the biggest thing for me, is having the information so you can make informed decisions, because had we had information throughout the years and been properly educated, we would have made different decisions. You feel me? So we'll see you in a minute. Mwah.